Okay, so let's freeze the flight and go into the setup of our descent and landing. Let's start with the CDU. Hit the Init Ref button and it will take us to the approach page. We're going to enter flaps 30 setting and it'll give us the speed, which in this case is 143. Then hit the DARES button, the forecast button, and enter our descending transition level, which is 4,000 feet. This will tell the FMC when to expect a change. Set our minimums to the published 100 foot on our radar altimeter. Set the course to 183 for runway 18R on both the captain's and the first officer's selector. Altitude selector to 2,000 feet. Auto brake to position 2. Set both nav radios to our instrument landing frequency and activate them. Set the runway elevation of 0 into our HUD and the runway length, which is 12,467 feet. So here we are at the beginning of our descent. You can see on the PFD that the nose has come down to 0 degrees, that we're descending fairly quickly, and that the N1 is down to 65%. Now we can sit back for a while and watch the FMC descend and slow the aircraft down and take us through a complicated set of waypoints. At 10,000 feet we will turn on the landing lights. At times we may need to turn on the speed brakes to help slow the aircraft down. While we have some time, I'd just like to emphasize the importance of resetting the altimeter to the approach airport's QNH. Imagine a scenario where we are flying from an airport with a setting of 1024 HPA to an airport with a setting of 1010 HPA. The difference is 14. For each HPA change there will be a 30-foot error in altitude. So 14 times 30 equals 420 feet. We would be 420 feet lower than our altimeter reading. You can imagine the problems this may cause, especially in low visibility. So remember the old adage, high to low, careful go. I'm going to speed this flight up until I have something else to say. In the meantime, you can follow the flight on the ND. Always remember to move the heading selector to line up with the course the aircraft is actually flying. These two little green dots on the ND represent a deceleration zone. This is to slow the aircraft down to a mandatory speed at Schiphol. During that time the aircraft won't be descending as fast. The FMC is saying it needs some help to slow the aircraft down. You can see from our star approach map here that at Schiphol we need to be below 10,000 feet. And when we are below 10,000 feet we've got to also be below 250 knots. So let's speed up again until 10,000 feet where we will switch on the landing lights, and then we'll speed up again until we get to Schiphol to make sure that we make our 250 knot and 10,000 foot mandatory settings. At Schiphol we will turn on to our Schiphol 3B transition and enter our ILS approach, flying our downwind, base and final as shown on this approach map. We will then lock onto the localizer and do an auto land. So as you can see we made our height and speed restriction at Schiphol. So let's speed up the transition leg until we get to the downwind leg. You will see on the ND there's another deceleration zone as we approach Mersey. We are probably going to have to put the speed brakes back on. After that, things are going to get pretty hectic as we try and turn this aircraft into a land vehicle. We're going to have to turn the engine start switches to continuous, set flaps gradually from 1 to 30, arm the VOR localizer, put on the second autopilot, lower the landing gear, arm the landing speed brakes, and bring down the HUD. As we fly base leg, I'm going to push the VOR localizer button and the command B button. Once I have flaps 5, I will put down the gear and move to flaps 15. Once I've locked onto the localizer, I will push the approach button, bring down the HUD, and watch this aircraft land itself. You will see the little glide scope diamonds appear on the PFD, and the speed setting will light up on the MCP. I need to move that down to VREF plus 5, which will be our landing speed, and today that is 148 knots. The HUD is down in A3 mode, which is the mode for an auto land. You can see that my speed is set to 148. My actual speed is coming down to that. You will hear the FMC complaining about flaps as we come into land, and I by mistake left the flaps on 15 instead of 30, and that would be an indication for a go around, but after all the work I'd done, I thought I'd just land and see what happens. I find the sim flap dial is not very clear, and this is not likely to happen when you've got a big white handle that you're moving in real life. Anyway, let's just watch as this clever aircraft compensates for pilot error and hopefully gets us onto the ground. You will see the little circle on the HUD is right at the bottom, and that's probably due to the fact that I only have flaps 15 and I'm not getting enough lift, and you will hear the FMC complaining about flaps and too low. So let's watch as this aircraft lands. You can see I'm at the correct speed of 148 now. I'm on the right glide path, and you can see that the PAPI lights are showing 2 whites and 2 reds, so all looks good, and my vertical downward speed is minus 800 feet per minute. Let's just watch as the aircraft approaches the runway. You can see that I'm 1.9 DME from the localizer, and that should only take us a few seconds to do at 148 knots.
Too low, flaps.
As we land, you will notice the auto throttle switch itself off. I will apply reverse thrust by hitting F2 and at 80 knots F1 to switch it off. The auto brakes will work until 80 knots, after which I will manually brake. The speed brakes were armed to work automatically by hitting shift /. Well, despite my flaps 15 error, This clever computer managed to get us on the ground safely. I'm going to taxi to the runway runoff and then stop, where the after landing procedure will be done. This would normally be done on the run, but I'm going to do that in part 4 of this tutorial series. I'll do a after landing procedure, then we will taxi to the gate, and then we'll shut the aircraft down to cold and dark. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in part 4 of this tutorial series.